Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome along to the Top Tier Championship. We're here on this lovely Friday afternoon to bring you the action from the top tier. This is the first round of the season, and as you can see on your screens, we are here at Spa-Francorchamps for round number 1. It should be a very interesting race indeed. See what dramas have to unfold here tonight. My name is Max Ring. I'll be taking you through all your action throughout the season, and we will be getting underway for an absolute classic of a season. Of course, we did a mini season not too long ago, and that was won by Thomas Enger Sim, who got automatic get through into this season. We have plenty of other teams joining them along the way. And now as we're heading onto the opening laps of the season, this will be the benchmark. Of course, we've got many teams in this division. Of course, all 10 teams have been filled up, and they are as follows. So in the Aston Martin, of course, Thomas Enger will go on board with Lucas Baisner as he's on his lap now, heading up into a Rouge and Radion. Then we've got Tartum in the McLaren, TF10 in the Mercedes, IRT in the Williams, AERT in the V-Carb, GSR in the Kick Sauber. Then we've got Precision Racing in the Red Bull, Alien Motorsport AMS in the Ferrari. Then we have BRC in the Haas, and then PEC, who beat Froome in that last minute decider, that final run with all the pressure on the shoulders of PEC to just displace Froome. They are in the Alpine. So those are the teams for this evening, and we are now going to get things underway. So for Lucas Baisner, now heading into the left-hander, of Puwana before heading into the Pif-Paf chicane down to 4th gear. Slowly bring that power back on. Try and stay a little bit away from the curves, but take as much speed through that chicane as you possibly can. Now through Stavolo and into curve Paul Freya. So then out of here up into Blanchimont. Of course, this isn't really a corner to these cars. It is, of course, you do have to turn for it, but it is all flat out. It's mainly just about your run through here for the bus stop. That's what you're setting yourself up for. This will be the benchmark to start the season, the opening qualifying lap of the season, coming here from Lucas Baisner up to the line. He will go out to the bus stop chicane, a little bit scrappy through there. Baisner, benchmark is a 1:40.523, a very respectable lap indeed, with Mattea coming in just behind with a 1:40.9, about 4/10 off the pace. Many more cars going to be coming and making their way to the line, and we shall see what they are going to be able to do. Spezzi up into second, 2/10 off the pace. Smith into third. Christoph slotting himself slowest of the times thus far. Diego now going up into the top 5 as well, 40.1. Ava Gobadi, that's a beautiful lap time there from Ava Gobadi. Beautiful lap time, a 1:40.470, only half a tenth, quicker than Lucas Baisner. Joel Marquardt now into third. Time certainly going to be coming in quick and fast. Jacquin now moving up into 9th place, 41.1. Not the greatest start so far for PEC. That's James across the line into 11th. Casper did invalidate his lap time. Now we're on board with Travis. See what he can do. A 13.2 in the middle sector thus far for the McLaren. For TRT, what can he do here now heading through Blanchimont? Now heading up into the bus stop chicane for Travis. I think that was Jonas crossing the line, moving himself up into 7th. Here comes Travis to the line in that McLaren. Where can he go? He goes 5th fastest, just splitting Spezzi and AERT Smith. His teammate of Carl Vergees is now heading up into the line as well. So DRS open for Carl. What's this going to be? A 1:40.9 slots him into 11th fastest. Super close actually between 5th and 11th. Just over a tenth of a second separating those drivers. You'll quickly see the game potentially pause as Casper has validated his next lap. While I get one of the AMS drivers in, we're getting Raxi in here this evening, so he can have his attempt. Was having some issues earlier on, that's why it's a little bit delayed compared to everybody else, but I've just invited him now, and hopefully he'll be able to get into the lobby. But those are the first runs done, and so far it's Gabadi on top from Lucas Basner, and Raxi has joined the lobby, so good thing for AMS there. They've got their second car in. Unfortunately, it's missed the first runs, but we'll see the rest of the session out. Of course, Spa, a long circuit. You've got to be in and out the pit lane quite quickly to complete 3 runs around here, due to the nature of it. Of course, 7 kilometers in length, and of course, one of the most historic circuits in the sport, where of course it is a very dangerous circuit, one of the most dangerous tracks on the calendar, but also one of the fastest and one of the most beautiful here in the middle of the Ardennes forest, with many iconic corners like Stavelot, Urouge and Radion, La Source, Le Com, all those corners, and Pouon as well, just really are some of the best corners in motorsport. So, now we are getting ready for the next set of runs. It's Matsea now heading through Malmedy, just ahead of everybody else. He'll be the first driver to be setting his next lap time in these second runs. See what he can do. So for Matea and PR, currently the quickest time for them. Of course, Casper has invalidated. So for Matea, a crucial lap time for this. Of course, you don't want any pressure going on to you heading into the final few runs. And this is what makes it oh so crucial, especially a circuit like Spa where you can't really afford to do 2 out laps. It will take a lot out of your tyres, and if you have that pressure, it is a long journey back into the pit lane. You don't want to carry much fuel either, so into the source. Nicely done through there from Matea. Maybe a little bit wide from the apex, but of course you can take many a different line through that first corner. Now heading into Rouge and Radion. Nicely done through there as well. Got to make sure you keep the car within track limits, and he's done just that. DRS open. Let's see if he is up or down in that first sector. Splits McLaren to the right-hand side. He can get a gentle slipstream off, and then onto the brakes. Half a tenth up on his previous best. This will just, I think, put him in front of Linus, who currently lies in 9th place. But this is the sector where you can really make up a lot of your time. The middle sector, heading through the Bruxelles hairpin, a little bit wobbly on corner exit. Now heading through the Jackie X curve and heading down into Pouon now. Is Matea going to be finding any time, or has he lost a bit of time thanks to that wobble out of the Bruxelles hairpin? Through Pouon, look how committed he is through there, just chucking the car in, and then late on the brakes into the next right-hander of the campus corners, and then heading into Stavelot. Late on the brakes once more, down to 4th gear, run the car out wide, just avoid the gravel on that left-hand side. Has found about 200ths more. This will promote him up potentially a few more places, but we've got to see what the bus stop chicane has in store for Matea. Heading up through Blanchimont now, flat out through here, as I say, just setting yourself up for that final corner. And then late on the brakes as you hit into the bus stop chicane. A very awkward chicane indeed. Got to take a lot of apex, go through the first one, and then slightly avoid it in the second. Up to the line comes Matea. A beautiful final sector from the Red Bull. A 140.695, and he moves up into 4th place. Travel's just starting. That was an Aston Martin. Now coming up to the line. I think that is going to be the man currently lying in 2nd place, Lucas Basner. So let's see what he can do into the bus stop chicane. So, out of the bus stop chicane, and for Lucas Baisner, he goes top of the times. Beautiful lap time there. And it wasn't Joel Marquardt coming up to the line. That was one of the Alpines, I think. The other Aston Martin, his teammate, Lucas Baisner's teammate, up to the line. Scott Holmes up into third, just 2 tenths shy of his teammate. What's Joel Marquardt doing? He's nearly up by 3 tenths of a second in the middle sector. Could we see TF10 reclaim their perch at the top of the times? But this time, it be for Joel Marquardt. Late on the brakes from the Mercedes. Is he going to be able to find the time he needs? It was a little bit deep through the bus stop chicane. Could potentially affect his run out of it. Cross the line he goes. And he does snatch that provisional pole away. Gabatti into pit lane. But for Joel Marquardt, he's snatched pole position back into TF10's hands. And he is only 200ths clear, though, of Lucas Baisner. That's Casper now moving up into 6th, just behind his teammate Mateus. So 2 really nice lap times there from PR. Travis now going to be heading up to the line. Now into the bus stop chicane for Travis. What's he going to be able to do? Can he go up higher? Can he break into that top 5 as he crosses the line? Yes, he can. For fastest for Travis. Linus up into 5th place as well. It doesn't seem many more movers. I say that. Carl Vergeese now goes up into 4th place. And he's only just shy of the top 3 as well. So he could be a threat for pole position a little bit later on. And that was some very nice lap times indeed. And that middle part of the session, Rene Clean is now coming up to the line. So let's see what Rene can do. His teammate for GSR, Linus, is currently sitting 6th fastest. Can he match that or go even better as he's now heading through the middle sector? A little bit wide through Campus Corner and heading into Stavalo now. Nicely done through there. 13-4 in the middle sector. Now up into the bus stop chicane for Rene Clean. There's a little bit of traffic to deal with. That V-Cub having to get out of the way quite quickly and actually aborts the lap and comes into pit lane. Maybe offset by a little bit of traffic. So he would have had to pass quite a bit of it as he now elects to dive into pit lane. Raxi, I think he joined the lobby. Yes, he has. Raxi currently sitting 14th fastest in this session. And he's just in front of Jacqueline and behind, in front of his teammate Christoph as well. But the drivers at the bottom of the table from Raxi downwards, all in the 41s, nearly a second off the pole position lap time. So it shows how big of a gap you can build around a circuit like Spa in qualifying. And it's a very tricky one to master. So as we now prepare for the final runs of the session. What are we going to see? Of course, I forgot to mention actually, BRC are down to 1 car this evening. The team in Haas colours, because unfortunately one of their drivers did have some technical issues before we got underway, and he had to pull out, and there was no time for a reserve to be drafted in. And unfortunately for BRC, that means they've got 1 driver flying the flag, and that is Noise, currently lying in 17th place. Not the strongest start for Noise as it currently stands. Who could be the first driver up to the start-finish line? That is going to be the question. So I flick my way through the drivers. I think it's going to be Jonas. Yes, it is Jonas for IRT. Currently lying on a 1 minute 40.837. If he finds a tenth of a second, find himself promoted into that top 10. So Jonas, especially in that middle sector, could certainly throw his hand into the top 10. And for IRT, they all kind of want that, but it will demote his teammate out of the top 10 as well. So across the line we go to start the final runs here in qualifying. We'll see who will come out on top. Through the source we go. Nicely done through there from Jonas, using a lovely amount of circuit on corner exit as well as we head down the hill into Erouge and Radion. Of course, you're mainly just trying to keep as tight of a line as possible and use as minimal steering up through that hill as you possibly can. Keep the foot to the floor and open up the DRS now down the Kemmel Straight and into the first sector split. Jonas, are you up or down, my good sir? He's up by 5 thousandths of a second. Only a slight improvement as it currently stands through the Comet. It was a little bit scrappy through there and a little wide through Malmedy too. As you go late on the brakes into the Bruxelles hairpin, the rear of the car just stepping out under braking, showing how late he dares to brake. It just eggs you to go further and further into the braking zone before you do slam on those brakes. Does the Bruxelles hairpin as he made it through Jackie X curve quite nicely, and through Pouon we go now. There's no point of backing out at this point. You've got to take this one all the way to the line. You won't be able to build your battery back up, and you will not have the fuel all the time for it either. So as we head through the campus corner, a little bit wide through there for Jonas. Is he going to be up or down in the middle sector split? A little bit wide through Stavalo, so he's down by half a tenth in that middle sector, and Jonas is going to be in all sorts of trouble, and Carl didn't even make it to the line. So for TRT, they could be in a spot of bother here with Carl Vergeese. That's an instant, sorry, as here comes Jonas. What is he going to be able to do? Into the bus stop chicane. It seemed he was maybe over pushing the limits of the car through the end of the middle sector, trying to find that time, and a big slide out of the bus stop chicane. Surely not going to be an improvement. No, lost about a tenth of a second. One of the Aston Martins now coming up to the line. Who is this? It is going to be Scott Holmes up to the line. He was down in the middle sector. That's his lap time over. He'll start a best of 7th. That was ART Smith coming up to the line. Let's have a look at the drivers scrapping it out for pole position, and Lucas Baesner is up by just over half a tenth of a second. So for Lucas Baesner, can he snatch that provisional pole back into his hands, or can TF10 a little bit later down the road say something about it? Lucas Baesner trying to jump as high as he can up the order, a little bit scrappy through the bus stop chicane. The rear of the car just letting go at the midpoint of the chicane, but across the line he goes. He found a tenth and a half, a 1 minute 40.2 from Baesner. Here comes Gabadi. Can he snatch it back? No, just falls short. Marquardt down in the middle sector as well. Joel Marquardt for TF10. Can he snatch it back away? No, he loses time too. Over to you, Travis. For TRT, I think he's aborted. Yes, he has. He's invalidated his attempt. And for Lucas Baesner and Thomas Engersim, unless Diego can do something, no, he cannot. He stays in 16th. It's going to be Thomas Engersim on pole position. Lucas Baesner at the death, taking a stonking lap time here in the Ardennes Forest to snatch that pole position away from TF10. And now that was a beautiful qualifying session, and for Lucas Baesner, take a bow when the pressure was on. He certainly delivered, and Thomas Engersim, the team who automatically qualified into the season, take the first pole position as well. So that is the end of an absolutely amazing qualifying session here in the Ardennes Forest. It's Lucas Baesner on pole position from Ava Gabadi. Then it's Joel Marquardt in third, Carl Vergeese in fourth, who missed the line and still was able to hold on to that fourth. Travis in fifth, so brilliant outing so far for TF10 and TRT in terms of qualifying. Then it's GSR of Rene Clean and Linus. Then we have Matea, Jacquin, Scott Holmes for Tongas Enga in 10th place, not what he wanted to be. Spezzi, Casper Smith, Jonas Rexy, Diego, James, Christoph and Noyes rounding out your field for this evening. Oh! It's raining here in the race. That might be why we saw a little bit of slower times, but it looks like full wet conditions potentially, or intermediate, and it is raining. This now will throw a big curveball into the equation. So, this now really does throw everything up into the air. So everything we've just seen from qualifying, I would say, ladies and gentlemen, throw it out the window. The rain is the great leveller, and that's why we could see the likes of Noise, Christoph, the AMS boys, and some of the others being in those 41s and having those slower lap times because they saw the rain on the horizon. And it is going to be quite a race indeed. It will certainly be one for the ages, and this is how we want to start off the season, with a dramatic wet weather race where mistakes can be costly at any given moment. So now just waiting for the drivers to be ready to get underway for the action now in this race. Lucas Baisner will lead us away from pole position. The drivers should just be readying up now, so the lights shall go off at any given second. And it'll be Lucas Baisner from Gabadi and Joel Markle. The two TF10 boys can certainly work together. Same with TRT and GSR. They are the teams in the top half of the field which have those two cars so close together. And for GSR and TRT, sorry, for GSR, they have the cars on the same row of the grid. So just waiting for the drivers to all ready up. But it should be at a moment's notice. We do get that the light command and the green flag to get underway. For Thomas Enger, they're looking to prove why they won that mini-series and why they got the automatic qualification into this season. Everybody else will be looking to throw their hands at the title and show why they deserve to be here from qualifying night and why they deserve to go up against Thomas Enger Sim. Of course, we have quite a long season ahead of us. And it's still going to be anybody's game all the way through. And we should be getting underway within a matter of moments. The command is now going to be underway, and it'll be Lucas Baisner who will take us from the red lights. 5 red lights are on for the first time here in TTC, here for the PC division. We are go, and we are underway in Belgium, and there's 2 jump starts already. Noise and James jumping to start, so look at that, Gabani to the inside of Baisner. There's contact, the Mercedes locks up the rears, and that's allowed Joe Marquardt to potentially get a switch back on the pair of them. 3 wide as we head down into a Rouge and Radion, and it's Gabani who leads the way from Baisner, from Marquardt, for Geese able to stay in front of his teammate of Travis. It will all kick off off now at the top of the hill into the Kemmel Straight, and Lucas Basner now under pressure from Joel Marquardt. Made a mistake at the top of the hill, and it's allowed a TF10 1-2 by the time we hit the end of the first sector. Side by side, potentially between the two TRT boys, but everything stays as it once was between them. But Lucas Basner trying to fight back against Marquardt, now into the Bruxelles hairpin. Is he going to look for the move to the inside line? No, just going to sit behind for now, but this is inviting Carl Vergeese to the outside line. Is the McLaren going to be able to storm his way through? There's 2x2 behind Scott Holmes versus Jacqueline, and there's also Spezzi and Casper in all of this too. Who's going to come out on top here between PEC and Thomas Enger? Will it be Jacqueline or will it be Scott? To the outside line goes the Aston Martin, but surely the Alpine will hold on, and yes, he does indeed. A very dramatic start all the way up at the source between the leaders. It's Gabani from Marquardt from Basner, and here comes Holmes once again to the inside of the Alpine, and he's able to now move himself up into that top 9, or is he? The Alpine squabbles back, he fights back as they're still side by side. There's contact, front wheel to rear wheel, and Scott Holmes is lucky to keep that car pointing in the right direction as they now head through the right-hander of curver Paul Freyer, as the Alpine has a huge slide and the Aston Martin into the back of him. That's invited Spezzi to thread the needle between the pair, and he's moved himself up into 9th. Casper now side by side with the Alpine as he's being ping-ponged about all across the road. Drivers going everywhere in these opening stages of this opening lap. Scott Holmes off the road. That's an Alpine sent into a half spin at the back of the field. It is all kicking off indeed, and it is going to be Spezzi from Casper from Diego Jacquin, and then it'll be Scott Holmes versus Raxi now heading into the source, and actually Scott Holmes using this to attack Jacquin in front of him. And is he going to be able to get that move done as Jonas has dropped down the field as well? He's behind Raxi now and looking to potentially get that move done. Drama up at the back of the field, and at the front of the field now Lucas Basner is all over the back of the Mercedes of Joel Marquardt. Is he going to be able to get this move done into turn 2? Noyes and James have got rid of their drive-through penalties. Disastrous starts to their season. And for Lucas Basner, he just has to sit behind for now. But absolute calamities there at the start of this race. As you can see, everybody is on the intermediate compound of tyre. And that was a very, very frantic opening lap to this one, as drivers will now settle into their rhythm, slowly bring things cool and back to their own paces. And we won't see racing like that, you would think, for the next few laps indeed. I'm expecting there to be a pit stop for these intermediates. I wouldn't expect them to go all the way to the end here. 22 laps on them will be a long old way. I don't want to be surprised if a team at the back of the field, like your Raxis, like your Smiths or your Jonases, do potentially try and go for that one stop. So exiting out of Stavolo, you can see how much of a lead Gabadi has built over Joel Marquardt's teammate. TF10 1-2 at the moment. It's a 3.4 second gap between Gabadi and Marquardt. If they can keep that for the rest of this race, they'll be absolutely loving things at the top of the standings. And it's going to be dry near the end, says Bulaki. So thank you for that. That is some very good... That is actually some very good information. So will not stay wet for the whole race, and it will be a wet end to this, a dry end to this one. That's where we could certainly see strategy come into play. Rene Clean is now versus Matea as they head side by side now down into Rouge and Radion. Who's going to come out on top in that one? It's going to be Matea. They split the GSR 6-7. He now moves himself up into 7th place, and here comes Spezzi all over the back of a pair of them. We're going to see a move. There's a switch between the TRT boys, and look at that, Matea placing his car perfectly, using the Williams to push him through, but that's Rene Clean fighting it back to the inside line. The Kick Sauber still trying to fight this one with a beautiful helicam shot through now into Malmedy and into the Bruxelles hairpin. More contact between the pair. Spezzi trying to find any gap to see himself through as he's now to the inside of Matea, who slides his way through the Bruxelles hairpin. are we going to see that move be made from the Williams to finally move himself further forward? There's more contact made, and Spezzi is up into 8th place, but does go wide through the Jackie X curve, and that now allows Mattea to get that move back to the inside into P1. Surely the Red Bull streak clear, as the Williams will be sliding all across the road through P1. They're still side by side as they go now down the hill, and it is Mattea who comes out on top. Frantic battling down near at the back here, and there's Spezzi to the inside once more, now into Campus corner. Is Mattea going to be able to hang on to this 8th place, or will Spezzi finally be able to break through as they've got Diego right behind them? And it is going to be Spezzi who moves himself up into that 8th place after long last, after tough battling, as Jonas and Yaquin now going side by side through the right-hander of Curve Paul Freya. And it is going to be Jonas who comes out on top, as now Mattea coming under pressure from Diego as well. And that's a move done from the Alpine before we even got to Blanchimont on the Red Bull. So it seems Mattea potentially struggling for some straight line speed. So now as we exit out of the bus stop chicane, is there going to be a move at the front of the field between Marquardt and Baisner? We'll keep an eye on that gap as we look at this battling further back down the field. Here comes Scott Holmes to the inside of Casper, as Holmes going to be able to make that move through for Thomas Engersim. Gets the good run out of the source. He'll need it all the way down now into Erosion Radion, but he'll surely think he'll back out of this one, and he does. So for Scott Holmes, not able to get that move done, but at the top of the hill, he's looking for it. He's tucked into that slipstream quite nicely. His teammate at the front of the field as well is getting closer, but will not be close enough for a move into Lecom, as Spezzi's able to get past Rene Clean. Here's Scott to the inside, and he's actually been able to get the move done, sorry, to the outside of Casper, and he's got that move done, but Spezzi and Rene Clean now still squabbling over this 7th place, and Spezzi's shown the gravel. That's going to allow Diego to go to the inside line and use that overspeed he had over the Williams to move himself up into that 8th place. This midfield battle is really raging on strongly, but in all of this, they are losing costly amounts of time to the field in front, and for Rene Clean, he is now 4.1 seconds behind the closest car, his teammate of Linus, as Scott Holmes is able to make his way past Mattea into the inside of P1 as well. A beautiful move from Scott Holmes to move himself up into that top 10. Callum saying, is it wet the whole race? No, it is not. It will dry up near the end. We've got that from Abdullah, who has helped us out there with the weather radar. So we will see everything dry up. So as we head up into Blanchimont now, Diego now is looking to have his turn to attack Rene Clean. And is the Alpine going to be one to break that defence? Yes, he is. Look at that. So committed on the brakes from Diego. And Rene Clean finally has been slain for that 7th place. And he was not able to hold on to it for too much longer, because the overspeed that the Alpine had just was too superior for him. And he now moves up into that 7th place on the road. So nicely done from Diego. He will now try to hunt down Linus, who of course is Rene Clean's teammate, who's actually now trying to make the move on Carl Vergeese. Of course, him and his teammate Travis did swap positions. There's actually a little bit of contact between the pair, but Linus does make his way through on Carl. And he'll have to fight that back once again. Spezzi now versus Rene Clean, and Rene Clean really starting to struggle. So for Clean, he's really going to be under some pressure from everybody behind him. Scott Holmes trying to make his way through, wasn't able to. That's allowed Mattea to now fight to that inside line. Is he going to be able to get the move done, or are we going to see more squabbling through the Jackie X curve and into P1 as we head into the left-hander now? It's Scott Holmes to the inside. Mattea on the outside will be slowed down a little bit and be on the less optimal line with the Red Bull, and the Aston Martin stays ahead for that 10th place. But for Clean, he really is starting to struggle. Is he took too much out of the tyre already, or is he just not gelling with these conditions? That is going to be the big question, as he is nearly off a second from Spezzi already, and we've not even gone through the full whole of Sector 2 yet. And the Kick Sauber is starting to fall backwards compared to his teammate, who is slowly making his way further and further up the order. So once again through Curve de Paul Freya, excuse me, and up into Blanchimont. What are we going to see from these drivers? Gabadi keeps setting fastest lap after fastest lap, as Scott Holmes is now going for that move to the outside. It just seems Rene Clean does not have any confidence on the brakes into that bus stop chicane, and everybody's just able to sweep right round the outside of him. Halfway point is when it is going to be drying up from from the engineer of Abdullah, but he is being our engineer as well here this evening in the comms box with the weather reports. So we will see it dry up around about halfway. Of course, it will have to slowly dry up once that rain starts. So I expect around about lap 15 is when we're going to see the circuit at the driest and potentially see those slicks come out to play. That's when how long the drivers will have to try and hold on for. Of course, only 22 laps here this evening due to how long this circuit is, the longest circuit on the calendar. And so far, we have seen plenty of action throughout these opening 5.5 tours, shall I say, of this circuit, especially through the mid-pack. Baser has just been sitting behind Marquardt, who's just allowed his teammate Gabadi to just fly further and further away at the front of this field. And for Joel Marquardt, he's doing the perfect team game. If he is trying to hold up Lucas Baesner and give himself a big buffer, and if they need to double stack on the same lap, they should be able to do so. News from Cleaver, Rene Clean has some headset issues in all of this. That's potentially why he's dropping further down the field. Can't hear his car too well and don't know how the grip is feeling. Of course, when you're in sim racing, unlike a real life car, all your feel comes through what you can see and what you can hear, and what you can feel through the steering wheel as well. But it's mainly through sight and sound when you're in sim racing, of what is going on with your car, as we actually have a freeway squabble further back between Raxi, of course, who was a latecomer into qualifying, had some issues beforehand, now battling away with the two PR boys. He's barged his way past Casper there, and it's the Ferrari going to be able to make his way up into 12th place. Be late on the brakes into the source. Casper brakes later, and he actually goes deep into the corner. Has that allowed Raxi to fight back? No, he's actually forced Raxi wide as well. That was not the greatest moment there from Casper, but I think he is just going to be slowing up as Noise comes into pit lane and retires. So for BRC, their evening ends early. Of course, being down to one car already at that disadvantage. For Noise, he tried that undercut attempt, went for a new set of tyres, unfortunately sped into pit lane. But for Raxi and for Casper, disaster for them. And for Casper, I wouldn't be surprised if that does come under investigation, because he just completely locked up heading into the final corner and saw himself, first corner, sorry. Just saw himself going straight on into the side of Raxi and dropping that Ferrari down to the back of the field. He had a flag still for Noise's car, who's just come out of the pit lane. And at the front of the field now, we can potentially see a squabble between Lucas Baesner and Joel Marquardt. He's closer this time around than he has been all race, has Baesner. And if he wants to try and hunt down Gabadi, he'll need to get the move done now. So, exiting through Blanchimont. He is really close now as Lucas Baesner. Is he going to finally dart it to the inside? Is he going to look to the outside? He looks to the outside line. Late on the brakes goes the Aston Martin. Not late enough as Marquardt actually goes deep into the bus stop chicane. This could be the perfect opportunity now with a good run out of there for Lucas Baesner. You can see that gap tumbling down. He got the better exit, but unfortunately just not close enough for a move into La Source. And he'll try and get as good of a run as he possibly can out of Rouge and Radion. Let's hit on board now with Lucas Baesner out of the source, and he really is right up to the back of that Mercedes. I would say about 30% left in the tank when it comes to battery, and he's using all of it. Now down the Kemmel straight. Is he going to have to dart to the outside line? I think he will be the inside for the second part of the com as he looks to the outside line now. The Mercedes parking itself perfectly. Joel Marquardt doing it absolutely perfect to defend both into the bus stop chicane and into the com as well. Did really well to keep that car in front, making that Mercedes as wide as he possibly can to hold off the hard-charging Lucas Baesner, your pole man for this evening. To the inside goes Raxi on Smith. Isn't able to get that move done. James, about 5.6 seconds away from Christoph. So he certainly, thanks to all this squabbling, has been able to gain back the time he lost from that drive-through penalty. And now heading into Jackie's curve, wasn't able to get really close enough to Jonas to be within that second. And he was able to get past Smith actually, heading through that into the Bruxelles hairpin, I think. Yeah, with Joel Marquardt being a little bit further back off the pace, it really is just a team strategy here from TF10. He may be driving a little bit slower, but that is to help the team in the long run. And it certainly is. Gabadi's got a 7.7 second lead over Joel Marquardt, and he's doing everything he can. And Gabadi has got another fastest lap. He's driving really well at the front of the field. And he's being able to hold on quite nicely with Joel Marquardt, his teammate, as well. Doing a really nice bit of defensive work to hold off Lucas Baisler and potentially Travis as well within the next few laps too. As you can see him diving offline to stop that slipstream, going to the back of the to the front of the Aston Martin, and now heading up through Rouge and Radion. Who's got the better run out of here? It's seeming like it is actually Joel Marquardt, but that slipstream pulling Lucas Baisler back into play. So we head down into the com now. Is Baisler finally going to be able to break that defense and find the code? No, he's just going to sit behind, not close enough. Tried go around the outside, but Marquardt late enough on the brakes was able to get in front. Scott Holmes is going to be able to get past Spezzi, so not too much fortune for one Thomas Enger car. The other one has plenty as he now moves up into 8th place as they try to hunt down Diego in front of him, who is still trying to hunt down Carl Vergeese as well. As this train certainly has been able to split out since they've been able to get past Rene Clean, who's been driving with no sound. So, as we exit into Pouhon now, nearly at that halfway point of the race, so we have seen this rain slowly clearing up. You can see it now a lot lighter than it was at the start of this race. Still a long old way to go until we get to slick tyre 1, and Jacquin actually picks up a 3-second time penalty. Casper has been let through by his teammate Mattia. So it does seem Mattia is really struggling a little bit, and Casper is that quicker PR car, but of course that incident a little bit earlier on will come under a little bit of controversy and surely be referred to the stewards from AMS and Raxi. Actually, if we look back between these squabbling cars for second place, it's actually Travis now looking for the move on Lucas Baisler. The Aston Martin has gone from attacking to defending, and they're still side by side through the bus stop chicane. Beautiful amount of space left between the pair. And for Travis, could he move himself up into 3rd place and maybe add a bit more despair to Thomas Engersim's evening, as Lucas Baisler has dropped from 1st to 3rd on the opening lap and now could be dropping down to 4th at this halfway stage of this race. It's a lovely run out of the source for the McLaren, but the Aston Martin is just able to hold on for now. And now as he heads out of Rouge and Radion, Lucas Baisler having to defend that inside line. You can see the slipstream really working here for Travis. Is he going to look to the left-hand side? No, Travis not close enough for that move into the com, but he's certainly seeing as the racier car at the moment, as Scott Holmes able to get past Diego as well. So once again, contrasting fortunes between the two Thomas Enger boys. One being able to get those overtakes done, the other one was struggling to, and is now looking to be on the back foot as he's having to defend from the McLaren behind, and has now dropped out a second of Joel Marquardt as well. So is the TF10 driver of Joel Marquardt gonna be able to just try and extend and push on further down the road? And has his defensive duties just now been lifted, and he is now allowed to push on? Abdullah saying 5 more minutes of rain potentially. And it really is working in TF10's favour, this gap that they do have, which Joel Marquardt has given them a brilliant opportunity in case they do need to double stat when it does dry out. So up into Blanchimont now, and you can see how much of a gap that Joel Marquardt has been able to bring down over Gabadi. Is that due to potential tyre wear as well? And he certainly has put that foot down. You can see the circuit really starting to dry up here. Not as much of a wet line off that traditional racing line. It's now just mere puddles more than just pure forms and pure layers of moisture on the circuit. It is certainly starting to dry out here in Spa in the Ardennes Forest. And the rain is still tumbling for now, but I reckon within the next few laps or so, the next couple laps, that rain will come to an end as Travis not close enough this time around to get the move done on to Lucas Baisner. It is now going to be a race of holding on to the tyres and just not making them overheat, because of course if they start overheating, you start sliding, you start adding more wear onto that tyre, and you start to see yourself fall down the order. And for Travis or Lucas Baisner, that could see them drop into the grasps of Linus and also Carl Vergees as well. He's been able to somewhat steady that ship in 6th place and has really been able to help in for TRT's challenge in this one. But for TF10, still that 1-2. Joel Marquardt this time around not able to take as much out of his teammate Gabadi, but I think it's certainly just going to be put your foot down a little bit, ease off again, build a little bit more of a gap just in case that that double stack is needed, and then push on once more. You can see Travis really starting to struggle on his tyres. And now heading up into the bus stop chicane. Are we going to see anybody dart into the pit lane potentially on around about lap 13, lap 14 once this rain stops? We're now on lap 12 of this race. The rain very light indeed, just a few drops here and there, but still all to play for this evening. You see the drivers just darting off to the right-hand side down the main straight, or the left-hand side now heading down into the Rouge and Ready on to try and find the wet parts of the circuit to cool down those tyres and start to see themselves just protecting those tyres. As I mentioned, this race now all about protecting the tyres until we get to that drive phase where they'll be driving hell for leather. We'll surely be on those medium tyres all the way to the end of this race, and then it really will be gloves off. But for Gabadi in the race lead and for TF10, they have surely cemented themselves in this one, unless something drastic happens where we pick up a safety car and puts the Mercedes man under some threat. But he does have his teammates as the rear gunner in this one too, of Joel Marquardt. So not all said and done just yet though. We have reached that halfway stage of the Grand Prix, and your order in the top 10 is as follows. It's Gabadi, Marquardt, Baisner, Travis, Linus, Carl Vergees, Holmes, Diego, Spezzi and Clean who round out your top 10. And it's still certainly all to play for throughout the field, and you better keep racing, even if you're a driver like James, who got that drive-through penalty on the opening lap. He's done well to keep the determination, to keep the grit, to fight on for the rest of this one, because a safety car can certainly change your fortunes, and that could certainly be what he's waiting out for. Just close up to the back of this train. You can see the times are coming down lap by lap. The rain has stopped now on the circuit, and we shall see who now comes out on top in this strategy battle. The track looking very dry indeed. I wouldn't be surprised if we see drivers electing to potentially dart into the pit lane on this lap or the next. Now starting lap 13, and of course it's still that little wet patch offline that isn't really too visible, so I would say potentially at the end of this lap we could be ready for the slicks. It's all just driver feel, driver preference, and if they think they can get those dry tyres up to temperature. And we've actually seen that gamble now being pulled off from Mattea. 4PR was struggling on those intermediates, and let's see if this undercut will work. Onto a set of the medium compounder tyres until the end of this race. We're going now to see that gamble in action. So keep an eye on his gap to James to see if the dry tyres are that better choice. And I do believe they are at this stage. I know DRS hasn't been enabled, but it will be very slippery indeed. But I think potentially, at the end of this one, we can certainly see those dries be the better tyre and provide the best grip, because it looks bone dry right now, currently on the circuit. And these drivers really are starting to struggle with actually, well, Gabadi is at the very least being able to get car rotation in. I would, if I was any of the engineers, potentially bring these drivers in. But then on that note, Mateo isn't really closing up on James. If anything, he's starting to lose time. I say that, he's now starting to gain it back again. So I think it's all about just trying to get those tyres heated up into the window. Potentially staying out for one more could certainly be your safest bet. Because these times, even though they are tumbling quite quickly, could potentially be in the spot above, or is it a yellow flag? And I think that is for Diego, who has gone off the road. Yes, he has, and he's got a left rear puncture. Puncture for Diego. Lucas Baitner, Travis, Linus, Scott Holmes, they're all coming into pit lane. Diego picking up that left rear puncture. So unfortunately for him, he'll just squirm his way back into pit lane, and he's spun round as well, and so has Casper. Casper's also picked up a puncture. Puncture drama, tyre drama here in the Ardennes Forest. We've got a real splitting strategy as well. So for Ava Gabadi and Joel Marquardt too, they could see themselves potentially picking up a puncture at this stage of the race as well. It all depends how well they've looked after that tyre. That yellow flag still out. I think that could potentially be for Mateo, who has gone round at the bus stop chicane. But they have made their move onto the slick tyres. And for Lucas Baisner at the longest circuit on the calendar, as Mateo has retired. He did spin at the bus stop chicane, but for Baisner at the longest circuit on the calendar, where he can find the most time on the dries compared to your competitors on the intermediates, this is his time to strike. He needs to put everything into this outlap, or he could see himself fall out of fate, and for Gabadi to just be able to hang on to that race lead and make an impossible mission to try and catch up. But he will have those tyres into a nice window, and look at that, has taken a second through the Bruxelles hairpin and the Jackie X curve alone out of Joel Marquardt. He needs more though, does Baisner. He needs to absolutely give it hammer and fist, and he just needs to keep putting that foot to the floor as DRS is now enabled. That is your indicator. It is good enough for the dry compounded tyres. That gap certainly is coming down as we now head into the right-hander of Stavolo. A purple middle sector as Gabadi now into pit lane. That gap between him and Lucas Baisner's 22 seconds. I think he's just going to have the advantage as Casper now picks up a 3-second time penalty as well to boot as Joel Marquardt into pit lane. Let's see how smooth this double stack is. Onto the mediums for Gabadi. Here comes Marquardt, and it's delayed ever so slightly. That could potentially see him fall into the clutches of Travis and Linus. As you can see, Lucas Baisner now making his way into turn one. Where does Gabadi come out in all of this? He is long clear of the Aston Martin. But for Baisner, he is out in front of Joel Marquardt. He's got the undercut on one of the TF10 boys. And, James got stuck on behind Casper in the pit entry as well. That's really unfortunate for the V-Carb, whose season has not gone off to the greatest of starts for AERT. That drive-through penalty now getting held behind a driver with a puncture. Not going his way at all. There's actually squabbling between James and Diego, and the move has been kept from James. But now the race well and truly is on. Lucas Baisner, he's brought that gap down by around about 5 seconds in the course of that lap to Gabadi, and will now be looking to bring it down by even more. Lap 15 of 22 as Rene Clean is able to get past Jacon, and he's able to make his way up into 9th place. And for Clean, he's doing really well for a man who's driving without any audio in the slightest, and he cannot hear the car, which is a big factor in races like this. So as we move to the front of the field, Lucas Baisner has brought that gap down by half a second over the course of this lap to Gabadi. The man who took pole, lead trying to fight back against the man who snatched that race lead away from him at the opening corner of the Source. It was a robust move from Gabadi as Baisner sets the fastest lap of the race. He actually come under pressure from Joel Marquardt, but Baisner is doing everything he can. He can just push this tyre to the very end. There'll be no tyre warnings, no real limits to pushing. It will be hard racing all the way to the end. The only thing you need to look out for is track limits at this stage of the race. No puncture warnings. It will just be hard racing all the way to the end, as Linus is now all over the back of Travis, and the GSR man to the inside line with the DRS moves himself up into 4th place. Lovely stuff from him. And TF10 with that double stack. I think they just made that wrong choice in not only the double stack, because I think they should have really put, I would say, maybe boxed Joel Marquardt the lap earlier, or even Kabaddi. And even if Marquardt got the undercut on Kabaddi, they're still getting the same amount of points for the team. So it was a bit of an odd one there from TF10 to still try that undercut when they saw the track was certainly getting drier. And it has not fallen into their hands in the slightest. I need to work on that before we move next week into Hungary to have a similar scenario there. But talking about Joel Marquardt, he's all over the back of Lucas Baesner. Now he's really quick in these race formats, as we have seen from Joel Marquardt, as there's a yellow flag somewhere on the road, and I think that's for Rene Clean. And I think the audio issues have finally come a little bit astray, and he's dropped down behind both Yaquin and also Raxi as well, as Raxi has done a really good recovery too in this one for AMS. He's now battling inside that top 10 and looking at potential 9th place finish. A real split in strategies too. We have many a driver on the hards. Travis, Carl, Yaquin, Raxi, Clean and Jonas alongside Diego as well, all on the hards compared to the drivers on the mediums. The likes of Kabaddi, Baesner, Marquardt, Linus, Scott Holmes, Spezzi, also Smith, Casper, Christoph and James. That medium tail will be quicker for now, but will the hards come back into play? So as we look at Joel Marquardt all over the back of Lucas Baesner, as Mattea has left the session after his unfortunate DNF. That's 2 DNFs in this race. Mattea, thanks to a for a spin on his dry run, came into the pit lane. And for Noise as well, who got a drive through and sped into the pit lane, unfortunately retired, as Raxi's able to get his way past Yaquin to move himself up into 9th place. Nice stuff from Raxi. He's now going to try hunt down Carl Vergees. But will he be able to? That is going to be the question with not many laps remaining. Joel Marquardt lying in 3rd place. All over the back of Lucas Baesner. The TF10 1-2 certainly could be alive, and Joel Marquardt is all over the back of him as they head through Blanchimont now. Is this finally going to be Marquardt's opportunity? No. I think he's just going to sit behind here, wait for that DRS down the Kemmel Straight. Kabaddi sets the fastest lap of this race, and then Marquardt, as he exits out of the source, will see himself push right up to the back of Lucas Baesner and see himself through. He certainly is the quicker car out of the pair, and once he's by, I'm sure he'll be unleashed compared to his TF10 teammate and build that gap over the Aston Martin. So here we are, DRS will be open as we head down the Kemmel Straight, and look how much of a better run Joel Marquardt got than Lucas Baesner. To the outside line he goes, as easy as you like. Joel Marquardt, he sees himself through into that 2nd place. 7-second gap now being built as Travis has been able to make his way back past Linus, and these two could now maybe see themselves onto the back of Lucas Baesner. And now into the right-hander of the Bruxelles hairpin. Travis really trying to hunt down Baesner now. I put those those hard tyres to some good use, as those mediums will slowly start to fall away over the course of the next few laps compared to those hard tyres, of course. Well, we will get to a point where the pendulum will switch, and it will land into the hard tyres of Travis's hands. As a yellow flag, and that's for Raxi, who's unfortunately gone around at the Jackie X curve, and it looks like it is the same old issue, the rookie error, the common error at that corner, dipping a tyre into the gravel, spinning yourself round, and what have been a very nice drive for Raxi and AMS after an incident earlier on with Casper, who's just in front of him. Unfortunately for him, he's dropped down into 14th place, and they see themselves fall out of the points, which is very unfortunate to see in the slightest. Baesner still hanging on to that DRS range of Joel Marquardt. That could certainly help him in his battle for 3rd place, to just try and hang on as we're about to start we've got 4 laps to go in this one. It's Kabaddi from Marquardt, from Baesner, then Travis with Linus just behind. And now look at that for a run from Linus up the top of the hill at a Rouge and Radion, and that's a beautiful move to open up that DRS. It was a superb run out of Radion. That slipstream working wonders through that corner. You saw it as well for Marquardt, only a lap ago, and Linus is able to move himself up into 4th place. Nicely done from the Kick Sauber, and for GSR, who, with one of their drivers having audio issues, it really is Linus flying the flag at the front of the field. But still, both of them being in the points, certainly something to be proud of, as Jonas is able to move himself past Smith as he moves himself into 11th place for IRT, and he'll try break into the top 10 and get past Rene clean within a matter of moments, as Christoph now picks up our next 3-second time penalty. Talking about penalties, they are as follows. It is 3 seconds for both Joaquin, Casper, Christoph, James and Diego. They all have 3-second time penalties. 2 boots. And for Diego and James, they're just squabbling at the back of the field. And for James and AERT, it's not been a great start to the season. Thanks to that that drive-through, which put them on the back foot from the very beginning. Linus has been dropped by Lucas Bates about half a second over the course of this lap. So it could potentially see him come into the clutches of Travis once more, and that battle for 3rd place just be subsided a little bit. We've got 3 laps now to go here in the Ardennes Forest. It is certainly game upper hand for TF10. This is exactly how they would wanted to start the season with Gabadi and Marquardt, and they're doing everything they need to do, and they're doing everything right here thus far this evening. So now heading through a Rouge and Radion. It's now the turn of Travis with the slipstream heading down the Kemmel Straight. DRS open for the McLaren. Is he going to be close enough for a move? It doesn't actually seem so. It seems that that Kick Sauber is very nice and handy in a straight line. And he does hold on to that 4th place. So for Linus, he's able to hold on for now. But will he be able to hold on for the rest of this race? And is Travis just sitting behind to just pull off a last lap move to make sure the Kick Sauber won't have a chance of fighting back? So as we now head into Pouon Corner, there could potentially be some more battles further back between Spezzi and Scott Holmes. And the rest of the pack really is about a second behind each other, and everyone's just out of that DRS range from one another. Well, it's not really working in their favour as it currently stands. So even with DRS enabled, we've only got 2 real moves going on for it for key positions in this one. Gabadi starts the penultimate tour of this circuit. With Spezzi still looking at the back of Scott Holmes. This would be a nice move for IRT and a good result for them as well. Spezzi is able to move them up into 6th place. Of course, was here on qualifying night, Spezzi, and got them into the season. Looking to do the exact same thing here right now. So as we head down the hill into Rouge and Radion, the DRS open for Spezzi, and look at the run he's got out of Radion. DRS open now. Is he going to look for that move, or is he going to do what Travis is doing and just wait for it? He's tucking out the slipstream. Just going to wait one more lap. That run into Le Combe on the final lap of this race. Lap 22 of 20. Well, lap 22 of 22, should I say? Because it is the final lap on the next lap. It will be exactly where Spezzi and Travis will want to get their moves done. Raxi is able to make his way past Casper and move himself up into 13th place. But I think catching up to Smith in front of him might be just too tough of an ask, as Diego makes that 3-second time penalty, a 6-second time penalty now here in Spa. And he's actually still squabbling with James as they now head side by side through. There come a little bit of contact made, but James is able to hold on for now. But Diego's still trying to fight this one as they head down the hill once more into the Brewster's hairpin. Is the up? He's going to look to the inside. Yes, he is. Locks up both the fronts in avoidance and is just not going to be close enough to get that move done, as Gabadi is now going to be starting the final tour of this circuit. 7 more kilometres to go till the first race of the season comes to an end. It's going to be started off with a bang from TF10 with a 1-2 on the cards. But they just have to survive these last 7 kilometres, this last tour of the circuit. Same could be said for Linus and Scott Holmes as well. Now under pressure from Travis and Spezzi respectively. And we're going to see now the McLaren get a nice run out of the source, really tucked into that slipstream. Going to use the DRS, going to go up Erosion Radion and get that launch off the top of the hill. Watch the McLaren on the back of the Kick Sauber. Watch how quickly he'll start to gain in that slipstream. Open up that DRS, burn all that battery as he's going to look to the outside line. Here comes Travis. We'll be able to get this move done. Or will Linus be able to hold on? The McLaren to the outside line will be the inside for the second part of the con. There's some contact made, but Travis does seem his way through. Spezzi wasn't able to get by there on Scott Holmes, so just didn't have the overspeed that he dearly needed, and potentially a poor run out of the source really did cost him dearly. And unfortunately for Spezzi, he's going to see himself potentially stuck in 7th place, or is he going to be able to get the run into the bus stop chicane to win out in that battle? As we exit out to the Jackie X curve into Pouon, he's surely going to have to be within 0.2 of a second if he wants any chance of getting the move done into the bus stop chicane. But at the front of the field, this man, from that first corner, he took the race lead and he has not looked back since. He has led every single lap of this Grand Prix, and it has been sheer domination to kickstart the season. TF10 came in this to throw their hands with Thomas Enger to see who is the best in this division, and they have started it off with a bang. Ava Gabani with a beautiful drive. It's pure domination here in Belgium, and Joel Marquardt brings up 2nd place for a TF10 1-2. That's how you kickstart the championship campaign for the team. And Lucas Baster in 3rd, from Travis in 4th. Scott Holmes just able to hang on in front of Spezzi. And the man in 6th place for Thomas Enger was able to recover quite nicely. He was down in 13th at one point in this race. It will then be Carl Joaquin and Rene Clean who round out your top 10. I say that, Joaquin unfortunately had a 3-second time penalty. And it will be Jonas who comes out on top ahead against Joaquin. But it is TF10 at the top. They were the top of the qualifiers. And they now show what they can do. They show their cards early on in round 1. They show their intentions, and they take the first blow. They strike early, and you never give them that sniff of an opportunity, because they'll certainly do that. The championship battle will really start to arise. Congratulations to TF10. Total domination, in the words of Abdullah Bulak, as they get that one to Gabadi from Joel Marquardt. But this is your finishing order here in Belgium. It's Gabadi who led every lap. He's got a Grand Slam. He led every lap, got the fastest lap, and did not look back since. 6.3 seconds clear of his teammate Joel Marquardt in 2nd. It's Lucas Baster, the man who started on pole, was unfortunately not able to handle that pressure and the teamwork from the two TF10 boys. Then it is Travis for TRT, followed by Linus, Scott Holmes, Spezzi, Carl Vergees, Rene Clean and Jonas who round out your top 10. And then it's Joaquin Smith Raxi, who potentially could have scored some points to a late race issue, followed by Casper, Christoph, James and Diego. And then your 2 retirements for this evening are Matea and Noise. That was a spectacular Belgium Grand Prix. And it certainly was one for the ages, and what a way to start the season, with a race of pure drama and pure adrenaline all the way through. A wet to dry race, which even under the threat from the Lucas Bison undercut, TF10 did not falter. They did not feel the pressure, and they did not crack underneath it, and they were able to hold on to take that 1-2 here early on. Before we end the stream here this evening, let me quickly run you through your calendar for the rest of the season. So, a bit like real life, where we headed to Belgium, we now make the trip over to Hungary, to Budapest for round 2. Then we head over to the Middle East for Saudi Arabia before making a trip over to the States for Kota. Before we head to Asia for Singapore, then back over to Europe for a European leg of Spain, Silverstone forwards and then Silverstone backwards. So not much logistically for the teams to go from Silverstone to Silverstone. They could just stay as they are. Then we head back over to Asia for China, then back to the Americas for Canada, South America to Brazil, back to Asia for Japan, then back over to the Americas for Las Vegas before we head to Monza for round 14. And finally, to Abu Dhabi to round off the season. We'll have 2 break weeks within the season. They will be known as transfer weeks, where teams can pull drivers into their pool that were not once there, who can drive for them for the rest of the season and sub other ones out who maybe cannot commit or have not maybe been performing the greatest and have elected to pull out. They will be between Singapore and Spain, so round 5 and round 6. We'll have a break week then. And then also between Canada and Brazil. So every 5 weeks we'll have a break week for the drivers and teams to transfer themselves in and out of their respective outfit. So that is going to be all for this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure once again to be here for TTC for the top tier championship, covering the top tier. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure once again. Thank you all, everyone, for tuning in at home. It's been, of course, these streams will not be possible without you watching at home, and these leagues will not be able to go ahead. So a huge shout out to you guys as well for tuning in and sticking with us to see the drama unfold. Talk about drama unfold, make sure you tune back in 8 o'clock next week as we make our way over to Budapest. Can TF10 make it 2-1-2s in a row? Can Thomas Enger fight back? Will we have a new challenger enter the fray? Your likes of TRT or potentially GSR? They will be questions that will be answered next time out. But on that note, it has been an absolute pleasure, everybody. Thank you once again for tuning in. And we shall see you next week in Budapest. So thank you all very much for watching, and goodbye.